गुड मर्निङ गाइस। बिहानको कति बज्यो? 6 बजेको छ, 6:30 र अब हामी एनक्याट टेस्ट ट्र्याक हेर्न अवन युनिभर्सिटी नजिक अवनमा छ, त्यहाँ गइरहेका छौँ। अहिले हामी 4 जना, प्रतीक, आशिष र दाई, प्रज्वल दाई, हाम्रै अपार्टमेन्टबाट हामी चढ्छौँ। अहिले हाम्रो प्रोफेसर आउनुहुन्छ अरे, अरूजना चाहिँ इन्डिभिजुअल गाडीहरूमा गइसके। लेट्स सी अब कतिखेर आउँछन्। मल्टिपल कारहरू आइरहेछन्। ठुलो गाडी यो छ, यो हो त, यो लेफ्ट नै मोडिने भयो, यही हो जस्तो छ। र अब हामी जान्छौँ। ओके, अहिले हामी रेस्ट एरियामा छौँ। यहाँ यसरी हाइवेको नजिकमै एउटा रेस्ट एरिया हुँदो रहेछ, जसमा बसेर चाहिँ हामी त्यही टोइलेटहरू भयो, अनि भित्र चाहिँ सानोतिनो स्न्याक्सहरू पनि राखेको थियो। यो चाहिँ एकदमै रमाइलो लाग्यो। अनि यहाँबाट चाहिँ पछि उतातिरबाट चाहिँ हामी मर्ज हुन सक्छौँ। आउने बाटो चाहिँ यतातिर भयो। सो रमाइलो भइरहेछ जर्नी। यस्तो छ, केटाहरू यहाँनिर उभिरहेछन्। केटाहरू चाहिँ जोक गर्दै बसिरहेछन् यहाँनिर। होइन, पुरै रेस्ट गर्न लाग्यो। तान्न पाइँदैन, त्यही भएर केटाहरू अहिले चुप्प छन्। अनि यहाँ चाहिँ हाम्रो यसरी के अरे टोपीहरू राखेको छ, कसैले लाउँदा नि हुन्छ केटाहरू। अनि यहाँ यसरी पछाडि 2 जना पछाडि छन्। अनि 3 जना नै हो क्या अरे? 3 जना, प्रतीक र आशिष चाहिँ बिचमा, माटिना दिदी र प्रज्वल दाई सँगै बसिरहेछन्। अनि म र डाक्टर अगाडि। के हाम्रो टुर गाइडहरूले सरी ल्याब एसिस्टेन्टहरू अनि डाइरेक्टरहरूले चाहिँ अलिकति इन्ट्रोडक्सन भयो। अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ अब हामी गइरहेछौँ भिजिटको लागि भित्र, के कस्तो हुन्छ लेट्स सी। त यिनीहरूसँग चाहिँ यस्तो ड्रमहरूमा मटेरियल हुँदो रहेछ, जस्तो यसमा एग्रिगेट छ, यसको छुट्टै एग्रिगेट ऱ्यापहरू सबै यसमा जोडिँदो रहेछ। त्यता पनि मटेरियल, सबै ड्रममा भएको मटेरियल हो भित्र।
It's recording friction as it's slowing down. Well, this is a texture meter, so that measures texture. This measures friction. These devices have been around for many years. There's ASTM specification on these devices. They were mostly used out in the field, so you can take them to a project. You know, they hook up to a battery source. Most of the time, people will hook them up to their vehicle. Close to 20 years, where we could actually polish the pavement in the lab and still get friction measurements instead of having to test every so often out in the field. So this is a way to kind of speed up that process. In a way, this is just simulating traffic.
वाउ, कोरहरू स्टोर गर्ने ठाउँ। अब अर्को ल्याब जान्छौँ हामी, तर सुरुमा पानी खानु। त गाडी
So technically this is what we call our aggregate lab. So this is our aggregate testing lab. As you can see, there's asphalt all over the place. Most of we can put them back into the cabinet spaces. We are out of space. Rocks back and forth. So this is what our new slab compactor is. It's a way to make the asphalt slabs like you saw. We were testing in the friction test.
So it's a roller compactor, which is the base plate, and they have some other samples. Oh, they have the gravity. I guess this is also gravity one, but different. So next lab, यहाँ चाहिँ स्याम्पलहरू राख्ने, volumetrics lab.
Everything we make in the mix lab comes in here. You know, this is where we run our bulk gravities, our max gravities of our samples to determine what their densities and air shape, compaction, tension test. And I'll show you the device when we get to the next lab. So there's a lot of different odd shaped sizes that we cut out of jar for us. This came out of a jar cord sample too. It'll be out of something kind of like this. I'll sit it here. So this is called the Texas overlay tester. It's just another cracking test. It's more of a crack propagation test or reflective cracking test. Some states are using that as their cracking test that they want to see. The problem with using some of these tests for BMD though, we can actually put them on a saw and cut out these beams. So there is a test called the 4-point beam fatigue test.
So यहाँ सबै कम्प्रेसिभ टेस्ट टाइपको छ त्यो आइडियल सिटीको लागि अरू कोड लक अनि अरू भयो र स्याम्पलहरू चाहिँ टन्नै छ.
So I showed you some samples in our volumetrics lab. So with this, you actually have these rods. They go in the specimen here. And then an LVDT that measures the cracks will fit in this notch here, okay? This is the device. So it gets down, this device can get down to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Now, it doesn't get that cold here in Alabama. We're not worried about that. But places like I said earlier, Wisconsin and Michigan, that it gets really cold, this is what they're concerned with for a lot of their mixes. And the test is typically ran as 10 degrees warmer than what your low PG grade is. So if you're using like a minus 28, that's the low grade, we'd run this at a minus 18. And up there, some of their standard binders that they use are minus 30. That's how we used to get these samples this cold, because that chamber is set up to do the same thing. We had to use liquid nitrogen to get in that cold, and then we were able to purchase this one, and it's all CT with different presses, but this is just their all-inclusive ideal CT. I guess you can run RT and have a notch, and what it does is it goes, well, it's not hooked up to the hydraulics. This sample would sit on these rollers here, and a load is applied, and then it breaks the sample like that. These are called AMPT. AMPTs is Asphalt Mixture Performance Tester. Got these around 2008 or 2000 in here. And they hook up to the machine that goes in here, and a load is being applied. And this is taking the measurements on these asphalt samples as the load is being applied. Because you see, these actually move.
It actually moves.
And there's 3 of them that goes all around the specimens. This one will have problems with cracking. You know, that's the thing with asphalt. We want it needs a little give to it. So this one does not give at all, different reasons. So this is a mix problem. So there's something wrong with this mixture. Maybe it's got too much binder in it. Maybe the gradation for it's not correct. It's not very stable. But this is a mixture problem. Since the Hamburg is ran under water, you have samples that fell like this too. So this is actually probably more of an aggregate problem, not a mixture problem. There are some aggregates and some binders, they don't bond well together. Because some aggregates love moisture, some aggregates don't love moisture. So when that happens, if the bond between the binder and the aggregates does not work well together and some moisture gets into that mix, you have problems like this. So this is what we call stripping. You can actually see like aggregate particles showing up in this mix here, and that's where the binder is stripping off the aggregate. So this is what we typically would call a moisture problem with our mix. There's a couple of different tests that we can do on mixtures to determine if they will have moisture problems, and the Hamburg is one. So it's clogging it out as it's doing. And actually, this one here is doing really good. You can see that one's doing really, really good. If somebody was working with permeable mixes, that's actually an open graded mix. There's some states that still do the APA. I think South Carolina, Virginia, or APA states still do stuff. Yes, exactly. So with this device, so the hose
new field core cutted samples. यो चाहिँ अरू टेस्टहरूको लागि सानोतिनो. And these are some of the tested samples. Pixar's car. Next.
So this is what we call our extraction lab.
Extraction.
So in this lab is where we can actually extract and recover binder off our aggregates. There's a couple different systems that we have. One, so that's how we do some of them. And this past November, we purchased this device, and this is called the asphalt analyzer. But what it does is it's a closed system for getting the binder off the aggregates themselves, and it also dries our aggregates so we can run a gradation on it too. Developed at NCAT, and they got a little poster up here. It's developed in '93. We were still on campus then. So NCAT was, you put your mix in these baskets. I don't know what they're burning here. That's just a very small sample of route. But anyway, you put your mix in there, divide your sample up, in half between there. You know your weight of mix. You can put in your weight in the device here. You put it in because down below here is a scale. So it's a heavily insulated scale. So you take your basket, you have the tongs, and you have to have on all the proper PPE. But you enter your weight, you set your basket in, shut the door, and hit start. So that scale has a weight, that is entered in it. So it starts burning the sample. Binder is what type of product? Where does binder come from?
Petroleum one.
That's right. It's a petroleum product.
Yeah.
At a certain temperature, it's going to ignite.
Yeah.
And that's what it does. So it sets your binder on fire, and it takes a reading every minute. So after it takes 3 or 4 readings, where it's not losing any weight, it says, hey, I burned all the binder off. So I got a reading before that you entered in. It's got a reading at the end, and it does the calculation for you. So you're not using solvents, you're burning binders off. But a big issue device is softer aggregates. So the scale can't tell a difference what it's burning off. It just knows it's losing weight. So if you're in an area where you may have some softer aggregate types, they could actually burn up in this. And the scale's not going to know. It's still will count it as binder loss.
Binder lab. Binder testing lab. PAV.
And a way to age it after it's been on the road for a bit. Yeah. So what that is. The trays can go on a stack here, and this sits down into the device, and so you can age a bunch of them.
This is RTFO. I think it's in use. So binder. Sorry. अब नयाँ ल्याब बाहिर मटेरियल छ इसके बाद उजाला है भने जस्तो.
So we dried aggregates. This is where they were stored. As you can see, that we're getting smaller and smaller. We need more space. We actually rigged for like coring and a couple of smaller tile saws for cutting drilling samples out of the pavement system. We would remove that one, but yeah, this would go on here, and then this we'd hook it up. We run a water hose because we'll take it out for the edge of pavement. We'll hook up a water hose. We'll go in like right here, and then so there's water flowing as we're cutting. Do the best you can.
ओके फिल्ड भिजिट पछि यसो लन्च सन्च हान्नु पऱ्यो नि त. मैले चाहिँ यो ल्याएको छु. अब आइपुग्छ होला प्लेट पोकु चिकन.
Jason Moore said that you guys are a great group, asked lots of questions. Hope you continue to ask questions out here. At worst, it'll be 5 minutes. 5 minutes extra. We'll see. That'll work. Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Would you mind, if you're not busy, unlocking the access gate? Pressure cells, and this H or an I This is a strain gauge. Okay, so what you do, if you've got a section and you are wanting to know, like we want to characterize structural response over time, we will install pressure plates above the subgrade and below the aggregate base. They'll put aggregate base, and then we'll do a pressure plate on top of the aggregate base and below the asphalt layer. And then as vehicles travel, as the trucks travel over it, it registers a response. You know, when I was a grad student, I installed these with Dr. David Tim, and you could jump on them and you could kind of see the reading. It excites a voltage. So strain. This is a cutout from one of one of the older surfaces, where it just so happened as we were milling this thing, or as we were trenching, this came out, and one of our strain gauges was still embedded. So this is flipped upside down. And what happens as you drive over the pavement, you know, it's the same thing if you were to take like a pencil or something and bend it into a smiley face. You're feeling strain in the bottom and tension in the bottom, compression in the top. Pavements behave the same way, and we can measure that with strain gauges like this. So we would have a network of strain gauges, and over time we can sense how much strain is being experienced at the bottom of the asphalt layer. And what happens is
loading truck. And now we are adding our safety base.
Who is the sponsor? So this is a texture E10. So this one is the additive, right? Alabama sponsored that. So you can see a lot of cracking. This is the test section. Okay, we need to. Okay, you guys need to go.
New section.
Right. So this is under your feet here. These orange circles are. This is where we have strain gauges. Underneath here, left wheel path between the wheel paths and then the right wheel path. And then we also, I think the dots have kind of faded away. We have the pressure plates about here, underneath the asphalt on top of the ag base, and then underneath the ag base on top of the subgrade. So all of these data, they're all connected. They're wired connections traveling through here. In fact, if you kind of kick up some of this, you'll find that there's kind of under here, and they come up and they have all of the data acquisition boxes. These are charged with solar panels, and then they're wirelessly transmitted right here at the surface, and then 3 inches down from that, 3 inches down from that, and then getting down to the aggregate base. And we have this set up on.
Okay, now we will see the trucks.
Field performance, but what about the actual trucking operations? So we have 5 triple trailer trucks. Each of them weighs about 155,000 pounds. That gross vehicle weight is illegal on the 10 years of field traffic in the real world, depending on the traffic of the environment you're simulating. What is the speed of the truck? So the vehicles travel 45 miles. So there are like standards on how far they travel, but normally they're spaced out pretty well. Eventually they'll be getting if something happens, it's really difficult to stop. So what you'll find if you're here, if somebody were to come on.
Okay, this is the location, autonomous vehicle testing facility, and then we have this whole road constructed like test section, And they drive on right. They will curve on curve. They drive really fast at 45, and then they will pass. So overall, it looks like this.
Enough, right? For the gas, maybe need a 30 hours. Around.
Inside Auburn University. NCAT Road Drive. This is the University of Auburn University Stadium.
That's why it launched. Why it launched.
ओके अभनको यत्रो ठुलो छ अनि उतातिर चाहिँ बस पनि लाग्दो रहेछ कडा छन् बसहरू चाहिँ अनि यो चाहिँ ठुल्ठुलो ग्राउन्ड र यहाँबाट त अलि राम्रै देखिने रहेछ सो ओभरअल यो एरिया चाहिँ नाइस छ
Right hand. Yet, but it's,
चिकफिले पनि भित्रै रहेछ
huh?
दे हेभ चिकफिले इनसाइड द क्याम्पस
That's
ओके यहाँ चाहिँ यस्तो छन् क्लासहरू क्लासरुमै क्लासरुम यहाँ बाथरुम भेटाउनै गाह्रो भयो हामीलाई पानी खाने स्टेसन चाहिँ यस्तो रहेछ अनि अब तलमाथि जान पनि स्टेयर्सहरू हामीले हेर्नु परिरहेछ त्यही भएर अझ अब हामी स्टेयर्समा जान्छौँ क्लासरुमहरू चाहिँ यस्तो छ है र यहाँ आएर अर्को काम भनेको पानी खाइयो र यहाँबाट यस्तो देखिन्छ यहाँ एउटा पोस्ट छ इमर्जेन्सी भनेको छ दबाउने बित्तिकै चाहिँ कोही आउँछ होला फायर हाइड्रेन्ट यताउता कल गरिराख्नु परेन अरू त नर्मलै छ जता ऊ हुन्थ्यो त्यही मान्छेहरू अलि बढी अनि थरी थरी मान्छे देखिन्छन् बिल्डिङहरू धेरै अलि कन्जस्टेड जस्तो पनि लाग्छ ओपन छैन अब पढाइ त राम्रै हुन्छ होला क्लासरुमहरूमा अब म्याकडीमा ब्रन्च